On a cold Friday night in Boston's financial district, the harborside bar glowed with polished glass, expensive coats, and the low hum of people who never worried about money. Behind the counter, Sarah Mitchell moved through the crowd with the calm focus of someone who'd learned to survive long shifts and short tempers. Then Derek Torres shattered the room. "We don't serve trash. Get out," he snapped at a man in a worn canvas jacket sitting quietly at the bar. The stranger didn't push back. He just swallowed hard and said, barely audible, "Ma'am, could I just get water? Maybe fries." Sarah froze. There was something in his voice, an exhaustion she knew too well, the kind that didn't come from hunger alone. Derek's eyes were already narrowing, ready to humiliate him again. Sarah stepped in before he could open his mouth. "Sir," she said softly, steady, "you're staying. I've got you." And in that instant, as the stranger finally lifted his eyes to hers, Sarah understood. This wasn't just an unfair moment. It was the beginning of something much bigger, something powerful enough to tear the truth wide open. What comes next will leave the entire bar speechless. Like the video and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for more stories that hit straight to the heart. The bar lights were warm but uneven, catching on polished bottles and reflecting off the mirror behind the counter. Sarah kept glancing toward the man Derek had humiliated moments earlier, trying to understand why he looked like he carried the weight of something far heavier than exhaustion. She checked on her other tables, but her focus kept drifting back to him. Something about his silence felt different, like he wasn't used to people noticing him at all. She returned with the water and small fries he had ordered, setting them down gently. "If you need anything else, just tell me," she said. He lifted his eyes, and she was struck by how guarded they were, like he was bracing for another blow. "Thank you," he murmured. Not the casual thank you of a customer. The thank you of someone who wasn't used to being treated with kindness. Before Sarah could respond, Derek's voice cracked through the air again. "Mitchell, I need you at table 4. Now." She clenched her jaw but nodded, leaving the man alone. Derek was waiting with a scowl, arms folded like he'd been practicing anger. "Next time you override me," he hissed, "don't bother clocking in." Sarah didn't answer. Walking away from him was the only thing that kept her from saying something that would cost her the night's paycheck. As she paced across the floor, she caught the man in the canvas jacket watching the exchange. Not with pity. He looked concerned, like he recognized the cruelty. She offered a small smile, just enough to reassure him she was okay, even if she wasn't. Hours passed. The dinner rush swelled and thinned, then grew again as the late-night crowd rolled in. Sarah's feet ached, but she moved with precision, weaving through tables, refilling drinks, collecting plates, calming irritated customers, and soothing exhausted co-workers. Every so often, she saw Derek whispering to bartenders, checking pockets, counting cash behind the bar far too early in the shift for tip pooling. Something was wrong, but she couldn't prove it. Near 10 p.m., she returned to the bar to close out a tab. The man in the canvas jacket was nearly done with his meal, pushing the last of the fries around his plate. She could tell he was drawing out the time, not ready to go back to whatever life waited outside. "You doing okay?" she asked gently. He hesitated, then nodded. "You didn't have to take my order after what he said," he whispered. "Most people wouldn't." "That doesn't make it right," she replied. "This place isn't just for people with money." "Does Derek think it is?" "Derek thinks he owns dignity," she said, lowering her voice. "But he doesn't." A quiet laugh escaped him, small, surprised. "I'm Alex," he said finally. "Nice to meet you, Alex," she replied. "I'm Sarah. And you're safe here. At least with me." She walked away before he could respond, but she felt his eyes soften as she blended back into the hum of customers. By 11 p.m., the crowd dwindled. Derek gathered the staff in the cramped back office, the smell of bleach and old receipts clinging to the air. He dumped the tip jar onto the desk, turning his back as he counted stacks of cash with quick, practiced motions. Sarah watched his shoulders tighten and relax in a rhythm too perfect to be honest. When he finally handed out the envelopes, Hers felt too light again. She opened it. $63. Another night of missing money. Another lie Derek expected her to swallow. Emma whispered, "Is it just me or—" "It's Derek," Sarah cut in quietly. "It's always Derek." He clapped his hands. "Great work tonight, everyone. Remember, complaints about tips reflect poorly on your performance. Not mine." The staff dispersed, their anger swallowed by fear of losing shifts. Sarah slipped into the locker room and pulled her worn manila envelope from its hiding place. She added another handwritten note. Busy Friday. Earned around $250. Received $63. She slid it back into place before anyone could see. Proof for her son's future, if not her own. When she stepped outside, the cold hit her hard. She pulled her coat tight and headed toward the parking lot. Behind her, the back door creaked open. She froze but didn't turn. "It's late to be out alone," a voice said softly. She relaxed. It was Alex. "You're still here," she said. "I didn't want to leave without saying thank you again," he replied. "What you did earlier. I don't think people realize what that means." She shrugged. "It's just decency." "No. It's courage." The way he said it made her chest tighten. Not in a painful way, but in a way that reminded her how rare it was to hear someone speak to her like she mattered. "You work hard," he added. "Harder than anyone in there." She laughed bitterly. Hard work doesn't pay the rent when someone's skimming tips. His expression changed, subtle but sharp. "Someone's stealing from you." Sarah regretted the words immediately. "It's complicated. You deserve better than complicated." Car engine revved in the distance. They both jumped slightly. She shook off the fear with a tired smile. "Get home safe, Alex." "You too," he said. His gaze lingered a moment, filled with questions he didn't ask. 2 days later, everything changed. Late Sunday afternoon, Sarah got a text. "Mandatory staff meeting. 10 a.m. tomorrow. Owner present." Her stomach dropped. Owners never showed up. Not at this location. Something serious was coming. When she entered the conference room the next morning, Derek was already sitting at the head of the table. His smirk wide and confident. "Morning, everyone," he said. "Try not to look terrified." Sarah sat beside Emma, folding her hands tightly on her lap. "What do you think this is?" Emma whispered. "No idea," Sarah replied, though her pulse raced. Then the door opened. The man from the bar walked in, except he wasn't in a canvas jacket. He wore a tailored charcoal suit, hair neat, posture firm, expression carved with authority. Derek shot to his feet. "And you are?" "I'm Alex Brooks," the man said calmly. "The owner." Silence cracked like thunder. Sarah felt her breath catch. Alex's eyes met hers, steady, grateful, and full of something she couldn't place yet. He began speaking, voice even and clear. "Friday night, I sat at that bar wearing old clothes to see how my staff was being treated. What I saw was kindness and cruelty." His gaze drifted to Derek. "And I saw theft." Derek let out a shaky laugh. "You can't possibly." Alex opened a laptop. Security footage filled the screen. Derek in the back office, pocketing cash night after night. Emma gasped. Jason cursed under his breath. Sarah's heart pounded. Alex continued. "You stole thousands of dollars. From hard-working people. From the very staff that keeps this place alive." "That's not, you can't," Derek sputtered. "When confronted with decency," Alex said, "you punished it. When confronted with vulnerability, you exploited it. And when given responsibility, you chose greed." He turned to the staff. "To make this right, I'm repaying every stolen dollar, with interest." He handed envelopes one by one. Emma burst into tears. Jason stared in disbelief. When Sarah received hers, her hands shook violently. She opened it. Inside was a check far larger than anything she had ever held. Alex spoke softly. "You earned every cent." The room blurred for a moment. She whispered, "Thank you," though the words felt too small. Then Alex faced Derek one final time. "You're fired," he said. "Security is waiting. And your actions have already been reported to the authorities." Derek lunged forward, furious. "You think you can ruin my life over some wannabe sob story? Get him out," Alex ordered. Security dragged Derek from the room as he shouted every excuse he had left. No one listened. No one cared. For once, his power meant nothing. The door slammed behind him. And for the first time in a long time, the room felt safe. Sarah looked at Alex, still stunned, still shaking. He nodded to her. A silent promise that what came next could be better than everything that came before. But the turning point, the moment everything would shift forever, was still ahead. And it would test every truth they'd just uncovered. In the weeks that followed, the harborside felt different. Not louder, not flashier, but steadier, like the place had finally taken a full breath. Sarah noticed it most in the small things. The way new hires asked her for guidance, the way regulars greeted her by name, the way the staff looked at one another without waiting for something to go wrong. She didn't chase authority. It simply formed around her. Built from every night she refused to let cruelty define the room. Even Alex seemed lighter, as if uncovering the truth had cleared more than a ledger. It had cleared a path forward. One evening as they locked up, he said quietly, "You didn't just help me fix a problem. You changed what this place stands for." Sarah didn't answer right away. She watched her son coloring at a corner table, safe, healthy, believing without question that his mother could carry the world and still offer kindness along the way. That sight alone was enough. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady. "People deserve fairness. Sometimes it just takes someone willing to say it out loud." Outside, the city lights shimmered against the harbor, reflecting off the windows like a reminder of how far she'd come, and how much further she could go. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales so we can bring more powerful stories to life.